I've heard many men say that once their wives begin to cheat, they start acting like completely different people. But in my case, my wife Gabby didn't change at all. After we filed for divorce, she opened up to me about her real feelings, and I used that chance to ask her about her affair. You really didn't change after you started your affair, huh? You didn't buy new clothes or sexy underwear, nor did you start using your phone more. Gabby looked at me coldly. I wouldn't do anything that obvious. I've always bought new clothes, only when they were on sale. I wouldn't change that because of an affair, and in general, I always change my underwear before it gets too old. Gabby laughed lightly and continued, But you even check my underwear, huh? You work so hard, buying sexy underwear because I'm having an affair. How silly is that? I was about to lash out at her for saying that, but I held myself back. She continued, Yeah, I was more careful about my phone. I would never call or text him unless I knew I was alone. That'd be stupid to use my phone more than usual, or to carry it around with me all the time. I didn't think you'd guess my password, but even if by chance you did, it'd be fine because I'd delete all my messages with him. Gabby's thoroughness was amazing. She even thought about how and where she'd leave her phone around the house. She would place her phone down very carefully, and knew that if I had shifted, even slightly, I had touched it. She was so careful, but I found out the truth. That was because of a phone call at work one day. My colleague seemed a bit suspicious when he told me that the call was for me. And when I picked up the phone, I heard the voice of a woman I didn't know. She spoke calmly. I have something important to talk to you about, so let's meet. It's about your wife's affair. Huh? Who is this? Maybe you're making some sort of mistake. The woman let out a sigh and said Gabby's name. Your wife is Gabby, right? If that helps you believe me, please come to the diner near your office, she said, and hung up the phone. I really didn't trust her, but after work finished, I went to the diner as promised. At the time, I half doubted her. Nothing about my wife had changed. We even still have sex as much as before, so I couldn't imagine that she had cheated. When I reached the diner, a woman waved at me from a table near the entrance. She looked incredibly kind, completely different from how I had imagined her from our phone call. I sat down across from her. Thank you for meeting me after work like this. You're probably hungry, huh? Please don't mind me and order yourself something to eat. She handed me a menu. I didn't feel like eating on my own, so I just ordered a coffee. When the coffee arrived, she began talking about her partners. I called you here to talk about something important. My husband Leo and your wife are having an affair. You mentioned that on the phone, but why do you think so? My wife hasn't shown any signs of having an affair. Really? My husband has been acting very suspiciously recently. I hired a private investigator and got photos of he and your wife entering a hotel together. She said she had photo proof. I couldn't easily believe what she was telling me. I asked her to see the photo, but she said that she was worried about what type of person I'd be, so she hadn't brought it with her. Laura said she knew for certain that Leo was cheating because of all the time he spent on his phone. Actually, this wasn't Laura's husband's first time cheating. The last time he had an affair, when she asked him about it, Leo just waved her away and said he didn't know what she was talking about. So this time she knew she had to hire a private investigator to get real proof. After her husband's last affair, Laura didn't want a divorce. She just wanted him to never do it again. Leo ended his affair, and the two of them lived peacefully again. But then, he began cheating on her again. Since it was the second time, Laura felt desperate. Laura knew that if she had kids with her husband and he became serious about one of his lovers, Leo would abandon her, and she would need to work while raising her kids as a single mother. Though she wanted to divorce him now, while they still didn't have kids. Though technically, she could receive child support if they divorced and had kids, there was no guarantee he would pay it. With the future in mind, Laura was asking for my help. I've decided I will divorce him, but I'm worried about what will happen from now on, so I wanted to talk to you first. Laura only had one photo, and the investigator said that it would cost her more to get more evidence. She didn't know exactly how much the investigator would charge her, so she was unsure what to do. She wanted to get more evidence, so Laura asked if I could help her financially. She said that if I paid for half of the investigation fees, she would give me all the evidence the investigator had gathered, so that I could use it as well. I quickly agreed with her. Laura seemed quite worried about money. She said that on multiple occasions she'd hired the private investigator, but her partners had only eaten together without doing anything too suspicious. She felt like she was wasting her money. Other times, Gabby and Leo would meet up and drink together, and then, after, just go their separate ways, so I understood why she'd be worried about money. She was also worried about how to negotiate the divorce. That's why she wanted to discuss things with me. Laura said that she would check her husband's text to find out when is the next time he and Gabby planned to meet, and hire the investigator again for that day, Until then, she told me to keep things secret. I agreed, and we parted ways. The next day, she showed me the photo. Though knowing about Gabby's affair bothered me, I tried to act as natural as possible. Being incredibly careful, I searched the inside of Gabby's drawers. I looked at her clothes and underwear, but nothing was out of the ordinary. I checked her makeup, the bathroom and the kitchen, but still nothing stood out. I didn't know her phone password, and I didn't want to risk her discovering me looking at her phone. I thought if I did any more, I would get found out, so I decided to stop my investigation there. I didn't want her to notice, since I was sure Gabby was keeping her eye out for even the smallest details. I'm not the most observative person, so I decided to leave it to Laura to search for evidence, and I would just support her with money. I was sure that Laura had a bigger chance of winning against Gabby, and it was true that Laura was able to collect much more evidence than me. A few days later, Laura called saying that she wanted us to talk since she had gathered more evidence. When we met, we discussed our divorce conditions. Laura wanted to remarry, so she hoped to clear up this divorce as quickly as possible. We discussed alimony, and decided we will claim as much alimony from our partners as possible. Talking to Laura really helped me out. I'm sure everyone does these things differently, but we first settled on the max amount of money we would request from our partners. We would request $30,000 from my wife and $45,000 from her lover. Laura and I would divide this amount. Worried about how she'd be living from now on, Laura wanted to take as much money from them as possible. We decided that Laura would get 3/5 of the total alimony. More specifically, she would get $45,000 and I would take $30,000. We would present this alimony plan at the final divorce negotiations. It was a large amount of money, but we thought it was definitely possible. I understood that Laura was concerned about her future life and income. She said she planned on taking her husband's entire savings. Laura had been the one who gathered all the evidence so far, and she had also paid for all the investigative fees until now. I was actually the one who suggested that Laura receive more alimony than me. Finally, the four of us all gathered. I found out that Leo and Gabby first met 7 months ago. I told my wife that I wanted a divorce, and that I would claim monetary compensation from her. Leo wanted to hold off on getting the divorce, but Laura made it very clear that she wouldn't accept that. Laura and Leo argued for a while, but eventually he also accepted getting divorced. It took Gabby and I much less time to agree. Gabby quickly decided there was no way to convince me, but she wanted me to lower how much money I claimed from her. Realistically speaking, I would continue living in our home while Gabby would rent an apartment and move out. She would need enough money in savings to cover moving costs, basic furniture and bills, as well as a few months' rent. We decided to divide what was left of her savings after she subtracted all those costs. She probably wouldn't be able to save up much money after the divorce. We decided she would pay me $400 every month for 30 months, making a total of $12,000. Laura and Gabby discussed how things would work between them, and they decided that Gabby would give Laura an initial payment of $800, and then 30 monthly payments of $250, for a total of $8,300. Leo and Laura decided to divide their property in half, and he would pay me compensation from the half of their property that he received. He had to pay a lot in alimony. The last time he had cheated, Leo had promised Laura that he would do anything for her if he cheated again, which turned out to be a disastrous promise for him. He had to pay me $11,000 and his wife $35,000. Since Laura would also be moving out, she followed Gabby's example and claimed however much she would need for rent, bills, and furniture. Part of that money would be paid for by a loan. I was worried whether Gabby would pay everything, since the installments would last a year and a half, but she paid every monthly installment without any delays. Gabby didn't act very clingy when I discovered her affair. I expected she would protest more. When I asked her why, she was so emotionless. She said the following: "There are different types of women out there. Many women don't cling onto relationships that are done and over with. I'm that type of person. I'm the type that'll use all my energy to look for the next man. Men are usually the clingy ones, don't you think?" I didn't understand what that meant, and it's been on my mind since then. I remarried and completely cut off ties with Gabby, but what she said still strikes me as strange. I wonder if she wanted to protect our married life, even though she cheated. Thinking about it now, I don't think she actually wanted us to get divorced. I'm just speculating, but I think the fact Gabby didn't argue against getting a divorce too much was a strategy. But I think she definitely wanted to rebuild our relationship, and she thought that was the best way to convince me. If she tried to plead or annoy me into it, it wouldn't have worked. She stepped back, hoping I'd be pulled into chasing after her again. Even though it didn't work out that way, I'm sure that's what she planned. Being relaxed, not asking for anything, and remaining compliant with our request, she knew that was the best strategy against my personality. It was a really good idea. Seeing Gabby like that did actually make my heart skip a beat, but her attention to detail. If we stayed together and she cheated on me again, I probably would never find out. I knew I couldn't be with a dangerous woman like her. I'm happily living together with my new wife now, but sadly, because of my experience with Gabby, I can't help but doubt my new wife every once in a while. Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy this video? If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment below.